So it starts with the founders, right? Who's the jockey, right? I think, and the horse, right? I think that's, I don't know if you know the saying about that, but we bet a lot of times on a jockey who can, that's the one who can make the difference. Because a great founder with a mediocre solution can still make it a great company.
Agreed.
I
Yeah.
think that's something, the people behind it is a very important piece for us.
I'm Felicia Shakiba, and this is CPO Playbook, where we solve a business challenge in every episode.
Professional athletes are known for drive, discipline, and focus. But when it comes to managing their wealth, the game often changes. Danny Cortenraede, serial entrepreneur and investor behind In Studio Ventures and general partner at LEAD, the Legacy of Adidas, has built a program to help athletes develop true financial literacy and think like investors. Danny, so great to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. And I like the way how you pronounce my name. It's a difficult name, I know that, but I appreciate it.
I do my best here. I really do. I try. Danny, can you take us back to the beginning? What first sparked your interest in building businesses, and how did those early experiences shape the way you now think about money or risk and opportunity?
Yeah, it actually started. So I'm born and raised in Europe, in the Netherlands. My dad is an entrepreneur. My grandfather is an entrepreneur. So when I was a little boy and sitting at the kitchen table, I was already listening to all these entrepreneurial stories. I didn't realize at that time, but it definitely planted that seed and my entrepreneurial journey. But if you go back, I started in the corporate world. So I worked 6 years for Vodafone. That's a big telecom provider in Europe, mainly on the business development and marketing side. After that, I joined Sony. I was responsible for Vodafone because I was working there for 6 years and know the people up to till C-level. I was responsible for that account. After that, I joined T-Mobile, Tele2. I was managing 3 strategic accounts, closed a big RFP, multiple dollar or euros deal. And after that, I thought, okay, it's my time. I really want to start my own business. So I launched Enterprise Media together with my former business partner. He was the creative director and I was more on the strategy side, setting up the agency. So we worked with Walt Disney, Disney Channel, ABN AMRO, a lot of corporate brands creating premium content. Long story short, was able to sell my part, and not a huge exit, to be honest, but a great learning curve. It was just great to launch my own first venture. And after that, joined as a managing director and partner in another agency and scaled that from zero to multi-million-dollar agency. That was a great journey, working with Nike, working with Adidas, FC Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG, all in the sports and soccer industry, because this company was related to the sister company 433 that grew out to the biggest soccer community, separate company, but my responsibility was all the monetization on this channel. But I said that went well, and working with all these great brands, I had around 40 people in my team in Amsterdam. And then we said, okay, let's open a second office in New York City. So I moved 6.5 years ago with my wife and 2 boys to New York to run the business in the States. Great journey. And working here in the States with Nike and Adidas, official partner with the MLS. Also, we opened a third office in Los Angeles. So we moved 4.5 years ago to LA, and I was able to sell my shares. And so I did that. And that was the moment that I thought, okay, what do I want to do? And I saw how difficult it is, right? Because it's not just a straight line. There were a lot of setbacks and all of things happen in the meantime. But how can you make sure entrepreneurs succeed? Because if you look at the figures, 80% of startups are failing within the first 5 years.
Yeah.
That's insane, right? If you think about it, about that number. Smart people create solutions, but they just don't make it. So what can we change there? So our thesis was actually to, okay, how can we scale companies from zero to Series A in the best possible way? Did a lot of research. We spoke a lot with founders. And what we noticed was 9 of the 10 times you have the CEO is responsible for business development, but is also raising capital and is
Yeah.
putting time and effort in that, right? So what we thought, okay, how can we change that? So we said, okay, we will deploy money into your company so you don't have to raise anymore. But plus, we developed a program to help guide these entrepreneurs from zero to Series A. So we deployed money in different companies and helping companies scaling, also companies from Europe to the United States, and here also locally, different companies. That was the first part of In Studio Ventures, but now we're focusing more on later stage companies. So Series A, Series B investments. Companies need to do at least 1 million in ARR, 1 million revenue per year. We want to see a proven business model. We want to see, okay, how are the financials? And then we average invest, I would say 3 million per company, all in sports. So we're looking at opportunistic at clubs, leagues, and franchises, emerging leagues, and the rest is sports technology. And we already start deploying with this fund. So we're the lead investor in the boardroom company from Kevin Durant and Rich Kleiman. And KD, the NBA player, for people who don't know him, but he's a great athlete and investor. He invested in more than 100 companies. We invested in Springbok Analytics together with the NBA, and we will announce a great other deal in one of the biggest franchises soon.
Wow. What an incredible journey that you've been on. And it sounds like you have a really good rhythm of, what to do next, like where to go next, which is really important. Not all entrepreneurs can do that, in a consistent fashion, that taking on that rhythm of going from one venture to the next. And it sounds like you've done it pretty seamlessly. But I'm sure there were challenges along the
For
way.
sure.
Was there a specific moment when you realized that understanding capital
Mhm.
and how to make it work for you was a skill everyone needs to learn?
Yeah. It started also already from a young age. My grandfather already started investing in real estate, including also my dad. So I think that's all already a different mindset, right? How can you actually make sure your money is working for you instead of just doing your job and then you work for the money, pay your bills every month. But there is a cap, right? If you can reserve a part, put it to work as passive income, I think that's a different mindset, how to just manage your money. So that started from a young age. I think the journey that I have and had is as started in the corporate world, going to a founder, and then now as an investor. I still think that was the best choice to do because I learned so much already in the corporate world. Some basic things that you maybe as an entrepreneur don't think are basic, but a lot of training at these top corporate brands, right? And working with very smart people there is just something that puts you and made me ready for being an entrepreneur, if that makes sense. But also in the meantime, just expose myself to investors. I was always intrigued. I already wanted to invest in real estate. That's how I started. Then a little bit of small checks into as an angel investor. But then I thought, okay, how can we really scale and do it on a bigger scale? And yeah, you need, like everything, also if you compare it with sports, you need the best people out there, smart people. You know my strengths, but you need other people around yourself. And then we now have a really a triple A team, and I'm proud of the people that I'm working with. And now we are able to invest on a big scale in opportunities that most of the people don't get their hands on. And then you can actually leverage and scale something on a bigger scale, right? Because as a founder, you're focusing just on one company, you're building that. And that's amazing. I still love that as an entrepreneur. But what we're now doing, investing in 15 companies, the game just get bigger and from my perspective, better. What I love to do with our team, because you can actually invest in 15 companies and we want to add value, right? If we cannot
Yeah.
add value in a company, we will not touch it and will not invest our money. So and that we understand what's going on there. Yeah, and that's super exciting.
And you've built and exited multiple ventures and invested in more than, I think, was it 60 startups? 60.
With Lead. So I'm a general partner at Lead. Lead stands for the legacy of Adidas. It's founded by the grandchild of Adi Dassler. And there we invested in 60 companies right now. And then the rest is with In Studio Ventures. Yeah, that's amazing. We had started with an accelerator program So that's how it started. But we invested from very early stage to later stage. And that later stage, I would say it's Series A, Series B investments, but it's backed by the Adidas family, right? That's amazing to be part of that. And there's so much power behind it, and also smart people where you can learn from every day, and just approach it in a little bit in a different way is something that I really enjoy.
So, what's one lesson about financial literacy or decision making that changed the way that you evaluate those opportunities today?
Yeah, there are multiple things, right? It's just not one thing. How you it's for me a couple things. Also, how we are approaching just business. We're looking at multiple things. So we're looking at first. It starts with the founders. We're always looking at two complementary people who are running the company. If we're looking at the business model, right? That's something that's obviously crucial. How big is the market? How scalable is it? These are basic things that we're looking at from an investor lens. But your main question is about the
Yeah, like
financial.
I mean financial or just decision making in general. Like what is the lesson that you have learned in making those decisions on like which opportunity is a good opportunity for you?
Yeah, it starts actually at the beginning. So there's a lot of deal flow coming at us. Let me start with that. But there's also, and I don't want to, but 95% is crap, to be honest, or crap. It's not what we are looking for. And I don't mean that in the wrong way. We have a lot of vetted partners in our industry that we're working closely with. And we know these people really understand what it takes to scale the company. So for example, with the Adidas family, if we got a deal from them, we know it's a vetted deal. We know, and they are a strategic partner, and we can actually do this together. We're
It's a good
working with.
source. It's a reliable source.
Exactly, and I
Yeah.
think that's important for us, that we have a reliable source where we what we can trust, and that ecosystem is working with each other. So that's how we first get our deal. A lot of the times, we also, of course, look at all the deals that we get inbound, and the team is looking at it, and we vet it, and we look at these deals. But then actually it starts, right? We have investments analysts in the team and looking at it, and we have our specific thesis in the fund, looking if it fits, right? What I said, the 1 million ARR, is it sports technology? What's the people, who are the people behind it? All these things. We rate that. So we have a rating. Then it goes to the next phase. Then one of our team members will jump on a call with the founders and the team members from the specific company. And after that, also the managing partners will be involved. And we start doing a lot of meetings and calls, and the whole journey starts.
We'll be right back. Back to the show.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask on those calls when you first meet those founders and you're in those meetings to, better understand who they are and their business and why them. What are you looking for? What is I guess the thing that's going to say, you know what, I think I can see myself investing in them.
Yeah, I think that are multiple things where we touched on. So it starts with the founders, right? Who's the jockey, right? I think, and the horse, right? I think that's I don't know if you know the saying about that, but we bet a lot of times on a jockey who can, that's the one who can make the difference, because a great founder with a mediocre solution can still make it a great company.
Agreed.
I
Yeah.
think that's something. The people behind it is a very important piece for us. Who is running it? Do they have experience in the industry? Maybe do they already have an accidental name? It's not needed, but obviously that's great. You see that the person can actually scale it and is able to succeed there. But it's not the only thing. So what I said, the business model, right? How's that working? How big is the market? How scalable is this solution? And all these factors combined will make sure, okay, we're going into a next phase. But it's a long process. We take our time to make sure we do an investment, because our job is to protect the money at all means. What's the risk here? Obviously we look at the upside, but also what's the downside, right? What's the risk here? And yeah, that's a long process, because if we get to that phase that we say, okay, this is really interesting, then we, as managing partners, need to present a deck to our investor committee, right? So, what do we see is happening? There are all kind of things are prepared in that presentation, and then we present it. The investor committee will make our life difficult. They will ask a lot of questions, And these are people in the industry, they earn their stripes and we present opportunity. And then after that, we will go into due diligence phase of 3 weeks, more or less, and look at all again the entities, the financials, everything is everything exactly how we think everything should be, and then the lawyers will get involved, term sheets, and in the end, obviously the wire. But that's a long process, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And we have our experts in our team because we also don't know everything, right? We obviously we are in the sports industry, but we have a lot of people around us, also within the Adidas family or venture partners, where we can rely on. So let's say it's something in data or sports betting. We have specific people for that, what we can include in meetings and go deeper, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What do you this is a really interesting point because we've talked about kind of what are you looking for in those founders, and you've kind of made an analogy of like who's the jockey and who's the horse, but one question I have is around what makes you believe that that founder or that team can take it all the way. And then I have a follow-up question, but I'm going to let you answer that first.
That's a great question. Because that's what you need to be a specific person to be a successful entrepreneur, right? Not everyone can handle this pressure and make sure you get it all the way. Because again, what we said, there's so many setbacks, and all kind of things will get thrown. Also, at me building all these companies, all kind of things happened. But that's something that you need to experience during that whole due diligence phase, and making sure, okay, are these people the right people that we think can run the company and are not sugarcoating, right? We're talking with so many people. What we can appreciate, so we were talking with a specific franchise, the CFO was real, was just saying exactly how it is, right? And not sugarcoat. And that's something that we can appreciate as an investor, and not only presenting it in a way, in a whole fancy way. No, just be real. What's happening? Do we understand here what it takes to get to that level? And the track records, the other things that you already can show. But again, we want to work with people that are real and can help us building these companies to the next level.
Yeah. And then my follow-up question is when you take a look at the financials, obviously those financials are going to be different. They look very different from one company to the next. But what are you looking for in regards to the financials? Is it a specific margin? Is it just the fact that they tried to put something together? Is it that it's accurate and organized? Like, what are those specific green flags that make you say, yeah, I think that they can scale this company?
Yeah, I think it comes back. There are multiple things, obviously, but also what just said with talking to the CFO from this specific franchise, she was real. And I think that's also what you want to see in the figures and not sugarcoating and making it better than it actually is. Because we, in the end, we will notice it, right? And we are together on the cap table. We're partners. So you want to work with people that are not making looking the figures better than they are. So um, are multiple things where we're looking at, but for us, we have the specific thesis in this fund. So what I said, that 1 million ARR is important to see what's happening and that we hit that threshold at least, actually more. But yeah, I think, and again, I think that's what we're looking for.
So, how did you become involved with LEAD and the world of athlete driven innovation? What does that story look like?
Yes, I met the CEO many, many years ago from Lead. Christoph is his name. Great person that I met a couple of years ago. But we also did our course together at Harvard. So there's a program specifically for sports, business, and entertainment. That's actually where we hit it off again and said, okay, we need to do something together. We're in the same industry. We share the same vision. He also has a very entrepreneurial background. And that's actually how we thought, okay, how can we combine what's happening here, what you're doing within Studio Ventures and what's happening with the lead organization is something that we share in terms of vision. So we got together. I flew actually to the Bahamas and met the Adidas family who's living there.
Oh, that's a
And
terrible place to meet, the
yeah,
Bahamas.
no, that's also that was also my thought. But
How are you?
the grandma is still living there and the family. And that's also where Christoph and the other people are based. All kind of other shareholders flew in. So there was an event that was organized by the lead organization. And things went very fast after that. I was able to sit down with the multiple people from the family. also including Horst and Klaus, who are actually the grandchildren from Adi Dassler, and the son, Alex, who's running also one of the funds. And that was for me also the confirmation, but also I think from both sides, this is something that can work. And then we made it official. And I also joined as a general partner there. And it's still great, right? Again, it's the Adidas family who's doing amazing things in the sports world and making a difference there. And we're working closely, obviously, together with the two investment firms with all kind of investments. But on top of that, right, with the whole ecosystem is something that we want to change. And also with the athletes, how can we change something there, right? Adidas is also working closely with a lot of athletes. We at Studio Ventures, and that's also something that we shared, that same vision.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, which is a good segue into my next question, which is, at what point did you realize that many athletes weren't getting the right education about wealth and investment, and decide to design a program to fix that? Because you have this educational program that educates athletic investors, right?
Yeah, what we saw, and I think that's a common thing, right? That you see these athletes performing at the highest level, earning so much money in such a short time frame. And I think especially 10, 15 years ago, you still have that classic story that they will end up with nothing, right? It's just that don't have the financial education and burning their money or going into deals that actually are not great because a friend is saying, hey, this is a great restaurant where you need to invest in, but they don't have a clue. And I don't say everyone is like that, don't get me wrong, right? But we all know these stories about how it can go in a specific direction. So if we just go back 10, 15 years, we all know that classic story that athletes, right, they earn so much money in such a short time frame that they will end up with nothing or maybe sometimes debt. So for me, that's insane. That okay, how can we try to help here? That was just something that also with my partners and people in the industry, and that they really understand where they're investing in. So we said, okay, we launched the Athlete Council under the Studio Ventures umbrella, but Adidas is also very bullish on this and is trying to help from that perspective. And how can we help them and make them aware of where they're investing in? So what we're now doing is actually involving the athletes in a lot of what we're doing. So for example, we have multiple deal flow meetings going on every week. We have an athlete council. And what we're doing is just that the athletes call in and we go over the deals. So they can listen, they can ask questions. To give you a concrete example, we had a call with a franchise, MLS in this case. The CEO was presenting, but also 2, 3 athletes were calling in and actually listening and asking questions. After that, we have a separate conversation and analyzing the deal. What did the CEO say, right? What's the strategy, or why do we think this deal makes sense? Or maybe not. What we're also doing is just we have specific moments with specific people that we're inviting. So what we also did together with our portfolio company, Boardroom and Fanatics organized that. There were 15 athletes who flew into New York. That was about entrepreneurship, AI, innovation. And we actually had a whole program for 2.5 days where we actually were learning. In the evening, there was a dinner with Michael Rubin, founder and chairman from Fanatics. The day after, there was a dinner with David Solomon, the founder of the CEO from Goldman Sachs, one of the biggest financial leaders. And Josh Harris, for example, was also on the panel. Yeah, these things are happening, what I think are amazing initiatives, and where we actually make sure that the athlete really understands what's going on and can also learn after their career, right? So they all, of course, the main priorities on the field. But if you already can do something on the side when you're still playing and learn and get more comfortable in the boardroom, or maybe learn about specific language and actually know where you're investing in, because I think that's also crucial. You need to understand where your money goes, right? It's not because your wealth advisor or somebody else is telling you that. And this is what you, for us, it's sports, but we're trying just to add as much as possible value that we can. Yeah, and then just try to change that. It's not easy, because I still think there are still a lot of things happening in the industry, and with people that take advantage. But I think in the end, it's something that we all need to put more time and effort in.
Well, I really like the approach that you're doing this hands-on learning, this on is what we call like on the job learning, which is you're not just standing in front of them with the PowerPoint, although sometimes that makes sense, but you are giving them the opportunity to shadow what it looks like and then breaking down what those concepts are after that type of call and that interaction and to truly understand like what is important in a conversation like that and what does that look like. And so I mean, I think that's a tremendous job that you're taking on and that I think is really important. And I don't even think this is just for athletes. I think this is going to be for a lot of people, to be honest, but starting at least with athletes and obviously you seeing that firsthand and what that looks like, I think is really important. When you began the initiative, what did those first conversations with athletes sound like? What were they eager to learn? And what were like the financial concepts that felt most intimidating or unfamiliar to them?
Yeah, no, it's exactly what you're saying, right? So it's not that we want to stand in front of them and teaching them how you do in class, right? We are very hands-on. And to be honest, it's also different per person and per athlete. Some are very eager and hands-on and jumping on these calls. Some are just they still, and again, don't get me wrong, the main priority is on the field, not what we are doing, right? This is a thing on the side. So some of them are not showing up on a regular basis, but I think the main thing is just joining these calls and preparing. So what I saw, for example, with an NFL athlete who's part of our fund, he's ready, he's prepared, he's sharp, he's also asking questions in these calls. So we're talking with a potential investment, but he's not afraid to ask the questions and sharing his thoughts, and they are thoughtful. It's great to see. I'm happy to have a person like that on the call, and I don't know, it's just a great because the athletes are playing on the highest level. They have the right mindset, and yeah, that's something that we see is happening. So it's a mix of a couple things, but in the end, if they are willing to show up and we can meet them where they are, right, because they're all at different levels, and that's something then and then this can be a huge advantage for all of us.
We'll be right back. Back to the show.
Was there a breakthrough moment or like a success story that proved to you that this approach could actually shift how athletes manage their money and invest in their own futures?
Yeah, it's the feedback that we get, right, from the athletes who are participating and
Yeah.
saying, hey, this is really awesome. They're connecting with each other, or they're sending me texts after things, and they say, okay, this was so insightful. So for example, we had a call with the business partner from Kevin Durant, Rich Kleiman. He was on the call. All kind of athletes called in. So NFL players, some soccer players, NHL, a couple guys were in there. And then Rich did a great job of being real about how he built the empire with Kevin from the beginning. And how do you choose your business partner, right? How do you make sure this is the right person? How did they invested in more than 100 companies doing also the brand deals? Is it smart actually already to do these things when you're still playing, or do you need to focus afterwards? We had multiple conversations, but I again, the feedback that we then get after a meeting like that, and the people how excited they are and say, okay, I really want to be on the next one. This is great. This is something that I really enjoy. Is something that gives me energy and the team, and say, okay, we want to double down on this and providing again as much as possible value that we can as a firm. And hopefully it's a win-win for all of us.
And it's working when there's like a snowball effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're constantly working with these elite athletes, family offices, entrepreneurs. What's changed most in how this new generation views investment and not just as protection, but as more of maybe empowerment?
What I see, it's happening already from a younger age. I think 10, 15 years ago, it was not. Sometimes you almost think it's popular or cool to be an investor, right? Because they see the LeBrons and the KDs and the Serena Williams doing all these things. But it's not easy, right? Let's be honest. You need to educate yourself and making sure you surround yourself with the right people. So I see it's happening already from a younger age. We also in college, also the athletes are earning there now serious money. if you know about all the rules and the change and that NIL, there's a lot of things going also on already on that level, and they are young. These athletes are young, but we are talking to them, and I'm very impressed by some of them, how they're looking at business and how they're already managing sometimes their money or just their career. I think it's very impressive to see that it's already starting at a young age. And just think about it on the long term, right? I think in the end, search a good wealth advisor because that's not our job, right? And making sure, okay, how do I build long term wealth? With investing in very safe assets where you already get your 4, 5, 6%, and for the rest, diversify in other assets where you feel comfortable, if it's real estate or alternative investments, but you get that overall and make sure that whole we already talking with another family office. They are creating a platform where they actually can see, okay, how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, and that there is a green light if there's enough money to go into alternative investments. But these are small things, or actually big things, where you need to be aware of, because are you actually doing, do you know exactly what's going on with your money, right? How much is going in and out already at that young age? Yeah, and then that's something that we try to help with, and making the right connections. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I mean, that's good to hear that there's more education coming from maybe younger generation. And I mean, I think maybe it would also be a little tougher for each founder to receive investment, but at least it'll keep all those founders on their toes. So if you had to leave listeners with one lesson from founder to investor to mentor or educator, what's the mindset that transforms investment literacy into lasting legacy?
yeah, that's a great question. But it's a whole journey also for myself, and I'm still learning, to be honest, right? It's for me, it was really surrounding myself with the right people where I can learn from. Still, also my business partner right now, he's a lawyer. He was a lawyer for 15 years in Silicon Valley, a partner, scaled 2 businesses, has 2 9-figure exits on his name, on the board of a public company, 2 private. I think these are amazing people where you can learn from, and they are complementary to your skills. And I think that helped me personally in my whole journey. Just always looking, okay, how can you? I also burned my hands there with people that actually was, but that's also part of the journey, right? Just making sure, okay, how can you be there with the smartest people out there where you can learn from, and then leverage. I think as a founder, it's great, but the game is bigger because you now can leverage everything that you've built, and doing this on a bigger scale is very exciting. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. Well, Danny, thank you for sharing your story and all that you're doing for investors, founders. And it's exciting to just hear how you've gotten to this point. And I'm really excited to kind of watch you and the business and your investors kind of grow over the next few years. So thank you for sharing all the things that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Visit us at cpoplaybook.com. Your support as a subscriber means the world to us, so thank you for tuning in. I'm Felicia Shakiba. Let's connect on LinkedIn.